Good morning. I'm Sean Buck. I'm the president of the National Training and Simulation Association, NTSA, and I'd like to welcome you to this exciting preview of ITSEC 2025. As we all know and have grinded through with the challenges we've all experienced in the last 9 months, we're excited to be able to share news of ITSEC 2025 and provide you with a really good preview of what our service leadership is looking forward to this year down in Orlando. The biggest message I'd like everybody to take away is ITSEC 2025 is a go. All green lights, and we hope to see each and every one of you between the 1st and the 4th of December down in Orlando. This morning, we have over 300 people registered and hopefully all dialed in this morning for the preview. And we hope that will be encouraging to you to show you the value that will be added by your presence and attendance down in Orlando. Our theme for this year's ITSEC is optimizing training, ensuring operational dominance. Operational dominance is critical in today's world more than ever. We never want a fair fight. Modeling and simulation and the evolving intersection with artificial intelligence provides a path for our military colleagues to maintain readiness, to achieve operational dominance, and to demonstrate unique and complex mission capabilities. We're excited to provide you with a sneak peek at things to look forward to at this year's conference. For those new to NTSA, we are a nonprofit association dedicated to facilitating dialogue between government, industry, and academia on topics related to providing the best possible training and training systems for our warfighters and our first responders. We host a portfolio of events each year, the capstone of which is ITSEC, the largest modeling, simulation, and training conference and exposition in the world. This morning, you're going to have an exclusive opportunity to interact with the ITSEC service executives in the run-up to this year's ITSEC show. Today's presentation will highlight the service's thoughts on the future of training, the technologies that are drawing them to the floor at this year's conference, and the issues that are top of mind for them as they face the readiness challenges before us. I'm also excited to share with you that part of the content this year will have 2 key undersecretaries of war, Undersecretary Tata for personnel and readiness. He has the training portfolio for the military, and we'll have the Undersecretary for acquisition and sustainment, Secretary Duffy. It's very, very exciting news for ITSEC. Those 2 men are very key to you all's portfolio and your industries. Following the panel's opening remarks, we'll answer the questions that you provided in advance of this event and attempt to address those that you sent in today through the system. And while we're live, I'm monitoring the questions, so feel free to write in your questions. We're all monitoring those, and we'll see who is best suited to field them. Due to the limitations on the panel's time, I've assured them that we will not exceed 1 hour this morning on the webinar. Additionally, they will not be addressing specific questions related to specific programs. Instead, they will be providing remarks on the key technologies that they're targeting this year that can enhance their readiness and capabilities for their future warfighters. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce all the panel members. Since this is an Air Force and Space Force-led year for the ITSEC conference, I'll first introduce these service leads. First is Mr. Rodney Stevens. Mr. Stevens is a member of the Senior Executive Service, and he serves as the Program Executive Officer for the Training Directorate, where he leads more than 1,500 personnel and manages a budget exceeding $7.4 billion for the Air Force. Next is Colonel Corey Klopstein, United States Space Force. Colonel Klopstein is the Program Executive Officer for Operational Test and Training Infrastructure, OTTI, Space Systems Command out in the Los Angeles Air Force Base in California. Colonel Klopstein leads a combined team of military, government, civilians, and contractors at 2 geographically separated units in the execution of a $4 billion+ portfolio to create a robust enduring OTTI. These advanced systems provide the foundation for high-end advanced test, training, and tactics development by all Guardians. As the PEO OTTI, Colonel Klopstein's portfolio includes the National Space Test and Training Complex and Enterprise Space Training Systems, providing interconnected, scalable, and distributed physical and digital ranges for full spectrum test and training capabilities to our joint warfighters. Thirdly is General Christine Beeler, United States Army, who is the Program Executive Officer of the U.S. Army Program Executive Office Simulation, Training, and Instrumentation, PEO STRI, headquartered down in Orlando, Florida. PEO STRI executes a multi-billion-dollar testing, training, and threat portfolio annually and is staffed by more than 1,200 military, government, civilian, and service support contractors. The organization also manages a foreign military sales program which supports more than 65 countries. Next is Captain Rob Betts, United States Navy, who assumed command of NOC TSD and NSA Orlando on May 15th of this year. Captain Betts' major acquisition tours include Deputy for the F-35 Lightning II Human Factors Integration Team and Joint Cockpit Working Group, Integrated Product Team Lead for the AIM-9X Block 2 and Block 2 Plus, Assistant Program Manager for Systems Engineering for the F-35 Charlie, Executive Assistant to the F-35 Lightning II Program Executive Officer, Program Manager for the F-35 Training Systems and Simulations, and Ready Relevant Learning Training System Program Manager. Last but certainly not least, we welcome Colonel Wendy Young, United States Marine Corps, to our ITSEC family. As the Program Manager for Training Systems, or PM TRACIS, for the United States Marine Corps, Colonel Young brings a wealth of experience to this assignment and to this community. Her career included roles as a supply officer in Okinawa, Japan, managing critical equipment transfers, and as the S4 officer at Camp Fuji, overseeing logistical support for training units. Prior to assuming her duty as the program manager for PM TRACIS, she shaped operational contract support policy at Headquarters Marine Corps, then supported the program manager wargaming capability. We welcome all 5 service leaderships to this event. Each of our leaders will first provide their thoughts on their hard problems in the future of training and what they seek relative to technologies on the floor of ITSEC that can help them to meet their challenges. We will then have an open and casual dialogue based on the questions that you all submitted prior to the webinar and the ones that you generate while we're dialed in today. So first, let me turn to Mr. Stevens for your opening remarks, sir.
Okay, Admiral Buck, thanks very much. Just doing a comm check. Make sure you can hear me okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so very good, sir. Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. Rod Stevens here from PEO Training. Admiral Buck, thank you for those words in the introduction. Very excited this year to partner with my teammate, Colonel Corey Klopstein from PEO, TTNI, to form that Department of the Air Force and to be the lead service for this year's ITSEC, with a focus on optimized training to ensure operational dominance. This theme really isn't more just than a call out of a theme. It really is fundamentally what, from an Air Force perspective, really resonates to our Air Force leadership. For those who aren't tracking, we have a new Chief of Staff in the United States Air Force, General Wilsbach, just recently sworn in last week. In his letters to the force, he highlighted readiness as one of his key focus area. He specifically stated in the call to the force is that readiness is our first responsibility. Aircraft availability, aircrew proficiency, and the ability to generate combat power at scale are just not metrics. They are the measure of credibility as a fighting force. He goes on to say that airmen must fly, fix, and train with purpose and realism. And that's one of the main things that drew it resonated with me is train with purpose and realism to ensure we are ready at any time for our nation's call. And so these words truly are fundamentally underscore what ITSEC is about and its overall theme of optimizing training to ensure operational dominance. In today's ever-changing environment, the preparation demands cognitive mastery of a complex multi-domain operations that only can be achieved through advanced modeling and simulation and training systems. And so I'll talk a little bit about what's important to us, but I'm really excited to announce as well, as Admiral Bucket talked about, from an Air Force perspective, our Assistant Secretary for Acquisitions, Technologies, and Logistics, Mr. William Bailey, goes by Elvis. He is going to be joining Admiral Buck in the fireside chat to kick off ITSEC for the United States Air Force. He comes from a Rapid Capability Office, and he's very heavily involved in the Secretary of War's Arsenal of Freedom strategy that's out there. And so we're excited to announce he will be at ITSEC and is going to participate and talk about how the Air Force is getting after readiness and training in an ever-changing landscape environment for acquisitions. Additionally, later in the conference, you'll hear from Major General Luke Cropsey. He is a PEO for Command Control, Communications, and Battle Management, and is really going to be talking about how modeling and simulation plays into the overall DAF battle network picture as we look to bring the mission capabilities to the warfighter and how we do that in the most effective way. And then I personally am excited to be a part of a couple of panels, and then also to have my own panel where we're going to talk about simulators and then the synthetic environments and the joint simulation environment, and how the two of them are related and where we're trying to go and where we actually have gaps in our overall strategy and roadmap to be able to effectively deliver modeling and simulation capabilities to the operators. So really my goal is to actively engage with industry and academia to better understand what are the technologies out there. How do we get after the ability to infuse open architectures into the overall simulator environment? How do we get after to being able to synthesize those architectures together in a formidable way that allows us to be more effective and efficient, so that pilots and the actual operators can maintain concurrency on the real systems that they're operating with on a day in and day out basis. So very excited to be at ITSEC. The Air Force is going to have a presence there as well in booths 249 and 1333. So I hope industry will stop by there. Very excited to engage with each and every one of you. Look forward to it. So if you haven't done so already, please, as Admiral Buck stated, ITSEC is a go. So please register. I look forward to seeing you down there and having that interaction, so that we can partner together, both from an academic and an industrial perspective, on moving the football down the field. And with that, I'll pass it on to my teammate, Colonel Klopstein.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Great to speak to you again this year, leading into ITSEC. We're really excited. Thanks again to Admiral Buck, NDIA, and NTSA for providing this forum to engage both industry and academia. I appreciate the introduction, sir. It's a reminder as you go through the portfolio, what a daunting task it is for all of us to be able to deliver these really important training and simulation capabilities for the Joint Force. It's an exciting time for the nation's space test and training enterprise as we work to advance readiness and resilience in the space domain. We need to drive innovation, strengthen partnerships, and prepare our guardians for the challenges of tomorrow. Our CSO has emphasized readiness, just as our Chief of Staff of the Air Force has emphasized readiness, as Mr. Stevens talked about. Space Training and Readiness Command, along with Combat Forces Command, the newly stood up Combat Forces Command, have a shared critical mission of preparing combat-ready forces in the space domain. OTTI and System Delta 81 are partnering with those commands to ensure a unity of effort to deliver material solutions for our operational customers. Our vision is to create the immersive arena for achieving space dominance, and that is the operational dominance and training with realism that both Admiral Buck and Mr. Stevens had talked about. You've heard me say this before, but it bears repeating. For years, the Space Force has prioritized individual proficiency and mission tasks of space operators, as well as functionality of space systems for a harsh yet benign space domain. The Space Force is pivoting its focus to combat-ready training for high-intensity environments. Gaining and maintaining space superiority is the objective of our force. And so as we evolve our training priorities, OTTI's vision is to build systems that allow operators to switch seamlessly between their operational system and their training environment, adding red threat stimuli so that we can sharpen our Guardians' tactics against the thinking adversaries that we know are out there. We're developing that simulation environment, simulation layer that's going to plug seamlessly into the operational ground infrastructure. That is our goal. as we provide that realistic simulation environment to train our guardians, we're developing a system called SWORD and partnering with the JSE team that Mr. Stevens just talked about to deliver future ground systems that will require specific instances to support both test and training. It's important for us to develop the appropriate standards so we can plug in blue and red models into those systems and into those simulation environments as we go forward. As Mr. Stevens talked about, the Space Force will also have a good presence at ITSEC this year. We're really excited to bring in senior leaders. I know that we've got a couple of panels with our operational team, both from Combat Forces Command and Space Training and Readiness Command. We've got our senior leadership from Space Training and Readiness Command on a couple of panels out there. We also have an acquisition update that our team, our program office, is going to lead. Colonel Craig Hackbarth, our system program director, is going to be there, and he's going to have our system program managers there to give you an update on all things OTTI. And then hopefully we'll talk a little bit about some of those things today. But I'd just like to finish with, a call to action for industry to continue to partner with us. We like the partnership that we've had with the Space Force. We need the Space Force to achieve that operational readiness in the face of global challenges. I want you guys to leverage the OTTI government reference architecture products that are out there on sam.gov. We recently released updated products. Use those as your starting point as you're engaging with us in our industry engagements, and point to things within those government reference architectures that you have capabilities where you can help us fill gaps. We look forward to the discussions. We look forward to the engagements in the next couple of weeks in Orlando. And we're really excited to co-host with the Air Force. Thank you. Look forward to the discussion today as well.
Mr. Stevens and Colonel Klopstein, thanks very much. Great opening remarks. Now turn to General Beeler in the Army down in PEO Stry. General Beeler, if you'd share some of your thoughts about the upcoming Army Transformation Initiative, as well as the different training technologies that you're seeking for your Army.
Hey, Admiral Buck, thanks so much for, holding this all together as we've gone through a little bit of challenge and keeping us on task and on target, because ITSEC is absolutely essential to our community, being able to drive readiness and training, and ultimately in my community, test and threat representation forward. As we look at the adjustments that have gone on, either from the Secretary of War's level with the Arsenal of Freedom, or we look at the Army Transformation Initiative and how we reorganized the Army to deliver better effects for the theater combatant commanders, and really aligned how do we drive capability, either technical capability and then the ability to train on that capability. It's been an absolute phenomenal year of re-envisioning how the Army can deliver in this process, and PEO Stry will remain a cornerstone to translating operational requirements and effects into training requirements and effects, and delivering those capabilities across our service. We're very excited to participate in ITSEC this year. My team will be spread out across the floor. We have a variety of Army leadership coming in and out during the time period. But you can absolutely find us at booth 2135, which is our exhibit booth, or come visit in our quad booth at 1333. We're excited to talk to you. And here are the things we really want to talk about, right? So we want to simulate the warfight, we want to replicate the threat, and we want to win decisively. And the only way to do that, understanding today's modern battlefield, is through simulation, whether it's live training events, whether it's virtual capability, or whether it's a constructive environment, and ultimately all three combined together. We consider this event one of our absolutely formidable opportunities to have really good dialogue with the community, in whether it's the education community or industry partners, to really understand what are the changes going on in your space and how can we take advantage of what you're seeing and what you're doing to reduce costs, to reduce time, to deliver capability. All of the things that the Secretary of War talked about on the 7th of November. I would offer that right now, the things I'm looking at are, how do I take advantage of commercial opportunities through a marketplace concept? How can we hang opportunities for our warfighters to go out and see what's available, pull it down, and use it in their space, whether they are able to modify it, whether they are able to change it, and then publish it back to the cloud so that anybody can use that training opportunity. We really want to look at licensing. We want to get after how do we use enterprise licenses to help spread the capability across small units to theaters. And ultimately, we want to partner with all of the services and the joint force in how do we connect all of our simulations together so we can see end-to-end opportunity in that space. Certainly, AI is going to play a lot of it. I think data, digital engineering, models management, and really data accuracy, authoritative data, and getting that data to the right place, all of those things are going to be really important. When we think about the training environment or the test environment at STRI, we're looking at what are the sensors we're hanging, and that sensor could be a tank, or that sensor could be a video camera, or that sensor could be a GPS locator on a UAV. How does that data move across the transport layer? How am I informing the transport layer? And then ultimately, how do I use core services to deliver that data to the right place, to the right audience, so that we can do AARs, we can get a better understanding of the cognitive load, and we can get a better understanding of how the warfighter as an individual or as a unit is performing. And so again, sir, thank you so much for your leadership. And I look forward to partnering with my teammates in a couple of weeks on the floor of ITSEC. Thank you.
General Beeler, thank you very much. Love the specificity. That's very helpful to our audience, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks down in Orlando. I'd like to say thanks once again to last year's lead services, our Navy and our Marine Corps team. You all set the bar very high, and I can also share with the audience that the Space Force and the Air Force have done a fantastic job following that strong lead. They've really leaned into ITSEC, and the content and the results will be very evident once we are together down in Orlando. So with that said, Captain Betts, over to you to talk a little bit about what you see for the future of Navy training.
Thank you, Admiral Buck. Can I get a quick comms check just to make sure that I'm coming through?
Loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. And thank you again for those kind words with respect to the best ITSEC ever last year. To our NTSA teammates, industry partners, Department of War colleagues, and Team Orlando family, good morning, and thank God all of that craziness is behind us, at least until the end of January. So I'm excited to be here with everyone and to be focusing on ITSEC, right? ITSEC is a go, and we are now getting ramped up for it, and it's super exciting. For Mr. Stevens and Colonel Klopstein, you guys have had some serious curveballs thrown at you with respect to hosting ITSEC, but I know that you and your respective teams are, you're going to handle it great, and you're going to come super close to the bar, right? Like I'm super excited for you guys to get really close. And so again, thank you for all the work that you and your teams have put into it. It is an incredibly exciting time to be part of the Department of War's acquisition enterprise, and even more so for those of us in the modeling and simulation and the training arenas. As we, the Navy, continue celebrating our 250th birthday, we've been reminded of our first major acquisition program, right? There's a great book out about it called The Six Frigates. If you go back and look to the Six Frigates, those are the first acquisition program for the Navy. And guess what? We were not fast back then either, and we haven't learned a whole lot or accelerated a whole lot in the last 2.5 centuries. And so one of the things that we are going to be focused on at ITSEC this year is speed. And that's definitely in accordance with the acquisition reforms that Secretary of the War just put out and General Beeler referenced a couple minutes ago. And so how fast can we deliver training products to the fleet? How much more risk can we take so we can get products out to the fleet faster? If you're one of our industry partners and you have ideas on how we can go faster or how we can accelerate these things, please, 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 my team wants to talk to you. Shameless plug, the Navy Quad booth is number 1249 or 1239, excuse me. We're going to be right next to the Army booth, but not quite, not too close. Yes, ma'am. Understood. We'll give you your space. Another focus area for us at ITSEC this year, keeping with theme of speed that we have is utilizing more non-FAR based contracting activities in an effort to get things on contract faster and get things out to the fleet faster, as well as reaching more of our non-traditional industry partners. One of the other tenets of those acquisition reforms that we referenced was, and General Beeler even mentioned herself, more widespread utilization of commercial solutions, right? Or dual use technology. Let's take things that are already developed and either put them out to the field or modify them just slightly and get them out into the field faster instead of starting from scratch and developing a one-off solution that we then have to maintain, et cetera. And so there is some incredible technology and software that already exists that just needs to be integrated into DoW technology. Again, if you think your technology can help us solve a training requirement or meet a training gap, my team and I would love to come talk to you. We are still at booth 1239. And then finally, I anticipate that we're going to see a ton of products on the floor this year that are using artificial intelligence. So while my team and I are very interested in how we can use AI to assist with either training scenario generation, post-event data analysis, or potential constructive entity control, among other things, we are not just looking for more AI, right? Just to include AI for AI's sake in our programs. And so we want industry partners who can help us determine when and what specific functions we actually want to use artificial intelligence for, so we can leverage those benefits, but keep the focus on operational readiness without just focusing on technological novelty. If you think your team can help us with that, again, we'd love to talk to you. We're still going to be at booth 1239, right next to the Army. So if you're on the showroom floor and you're looking for my team and you don't know where to find us, I've given you a couple hints right thus far. We're going to be at booth 1239. But first, you have to register for ITSEC. So you haven't registered for ITSEC yet, please go do that and make sure that you can come find me and my team at the quad booth. I won't repeat the number again. But thank you for having made it thus far into this presentation this morning. Greatly appreciated. And to our industry partners, thank you for everything that you do in support of our warfighters. We on the acquisition side and they could not succeed without your partnership and without your assistance. So thank you very much for all that you do in support of them. And I look forward to the questions. Thanks, sir.
Thanks so much, Captain Betts. Much appreciated. Last but not least, newest to our ITSEC family is Colonel Wendy Young. Over to you, Colonel.
Good morning. Sir, can you hear me pretty good?
Loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. I'm excited to be here. This is my third ITSEC, but this is my first ITSEC as the Marine executive. So I'm super excited to be here and be a part of the planning. Again, we thank you in STA for keeping us on track, because we've been in some touch and go moments, but definitely been full force with ITSEC as a go. I just have a few prepared comments that I'll share with you right now. Team Orlando, I want to say thank you for welcoming me to the team. I'm excited to be a part of this team. And as we go forward in this mission of collaboration and interoperability with some of the direction that's been given to us, I look forward to learning more from you, as some of you have been around here for a few days longer than I have. So, sorry, I'm dealing with Florida allergies and I'm not used to them. So I will probably be a little bit slower than I'm usually am in communicating with the team. But thank you to our industry partners, to those out there that are educators and researchers and program designers, those innovators, those that represent the backbone of our nation's training and modeling simulation. We thank you for being a part of ITSEC. We thank you for bringing your knowledge to us. We look forward to working with you as your expertise strengthens how we move forward as a Marine Corps. Our primary focus is warfighting, but we're trying to work on how we train our workforce, how we train our Marines, and to do that at a more effective and efficient manner and more cost effectively. We look in at ways we can increase that modeling simulation across our force during specifically their training. The Marine Corps is ongoing modernization. So we're taking a lot of things that we used to do hands-on, and we're translating that into simulations. As we celebrate our 250th birthday, we had a great time this past weekend celebrating with PM Traces, and some of our industry partners met us out there. But across the fleet, we're looking for ways to make our Marines more lethal, more ready and to support our nation's focus and to win our nation's battles. As the war continues to change in an aggressive manner, we're looking for a way to sustain that in our force. Our operating environments are currently shaped by ubiquitous sensors, long-range precision threats, and contested logistics, electromagnetic congestion, and rapidly evolving AI-driven decision cycles. So in order for us to train Marines for that fight, we must harness the power of emerging technologies. And we can't not do that without you, without our industry partners, without interoperability, without working together to find solutions that are faster, that cost less than what we, as the current budget is, with cost-effective solutions that we can quickly change. As Marine Corps Systems Command, we are focused on fostering an inter-service collaboration, modernizing programs, management aligned to the Department of War Acquisition Transformation Strategy and process improvement. The stakeholders of Training and Education Command campaign plan. So we work directly with Training and Education Command for the Marine Corps, and you will see some of our senior leaders here at ITSEC in the next couple of weeks. General Watson will be on deck, General Brooks, General Tracy will be there, and General Campbell are just to name a few. We will have other Marines out there. Everyone's been chomping at the bit to figure out how soon can we get our DTS in the system so we can be down in Orlando with our industry partners looking at the new technology. But we're looking at how can we build a future-focused, data-driven learning enterprise that adapts to the pace of war, that integrates new capabilities rapidly and delivers realistic, threat-informed training across echelons of the force. Industry, you are important. You're essential to achieving that vision. We need partners who can help us modernize LVC integration at scale. We need partners who understand how to design adaptive learning ecosystems, leveraging AI and analytic responsibility, and creating training tools that prepare Marines to operate in denied and degraded domains. We need you. We need our partners who can accelerate and integrate unmanned systems, maritime fires, signature management training, and advance multiple domain capabilities into our formal schools and service level exercises. But most importantly, we need partners who see Marines, the human element, as the center of gravity. Our instructors, our facilitators, our faculty, our Marines training, they are the ones who translate technology into decisive combat capability. Technology without usability, without relevance, without integration into actual warfighting tasks is simply not enough. What you build must make Marines more lethal, more survivable, more capable of real-world operations. The Marine Corps values industry partners who lean forward, who experiment alongside us, who understand our operational problems, and are willing to prototype, integrate, and adapt quickly. We are committed to transparency, collaboration, and shared learning, and we ask the same in return. Today is about deepening that partnership. It's about aligning our innovation with our operational realities. It's about ensuring the capabilities we deliver together prepare Marines for the complex fight that's ahead. Thank you again for your leadership. Thank you for your creativity and your commitment, the readiness of our Marines and our nation. I look forward to our discussion. Please visit us at the Quad booth. Thank you very much.
Colonel Young, thanks very much. Your excitement, your passion was palpable, and that's exactly what we're trying to generate. We're glad to have you on the team and look forward to seeing you live in a couple of weeks. Okay, let's cut right to the questions. I'm going to go back to our lead services, the United States Air Force, the United States Space Force. So, Mr. Stevens, first to you is a question that was submitted from some of the registrants. What are your top priorities over the next 3 to 5 years for Air Force training?
Yes, sir. Thanks for the question, and thanks to all the executives here today. And as I heard Captain Betts state, I think it was booth 249 is where everybody should go for learning about the Air Force. But with respect to the question, sir, in the next 3 to 5 years, The big thing for us is we have a concurrency problem, and I'll talk a little about that more in the future. But the differences between the OFP that are on the major weapon system, so the operational flight programs that are on the aircraft, and what we actually have in our simulators are not the same. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have is concurrency. And the reason being is one, we're in a physically constrained environment, and two, the technology is slightly misaligned. And so as aircraft OFPs are upgraded, our simulators fall behind. So one of my big priorities is how do we instill technologies into the simulation environment that allows us to be more adaptive and effective to maintain concurrency between our major weapon systems and the simulators themselves. Colonel Klopstein referenced government reference architectures in his opening salvo. We have one with respect to it's called SCARS, Simulator Common Architecture Requirement Standard. And the one thing that I'm really trying to drive towards is how do we actually take the 2,400 fielded systems that we have for all of our operating MAGCOMs, to include the National Guard Bureau and the United States Marine Corps, how do we start bringing in the technology and embracing that common reference architecture that allows us to be more adaptive to the ever-changing major weapon systems, so that we have pilot proficiency and the readiness needed to execute, the high-end fight. And so that's one of the biggest priorities. The other thing I'll just add to is with the Arsenal of Freedom that SEC War has put out there, it's really trying to embrace in the very near term is how do we take those authorities that are going to be passed down to program acquisition executives, partnering with industry to find ways that we can rapidly and agilely award contracts that allows us to deliver capability at the speed of relevance and a focus there. So closest alligator is really kind of embracing the authorities being levied upon us by SEC War. And then that 3 to 5 year look is how do we start getting more of an enterprise approach to bringing common architectures that allow us to be more adaptable. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Stevens. Colonel Klopstein, OTTI's mission is critical to advancing the Space Force's test and training enterprise, but we've seen some challenges getting acquisition actions to execution. From your perspective, what are the key barriers, whether requirements alignment, funding, or contracting pathways, and how can industry partners like Buy Light help accelerate progress to get these capabilities fielded faster?
Well, I'd say probably the first thing that we've dealt with is standing up a new organization, getting the right people in place, and ensuring we've got the right acquisition vehicles in place to be able to execute at speed. I think the team has done an excellent job of ensuring that we've changed some of the strategies, our legacy strategies, to shift from delivering what we had from previous trainers, the older and legacy trainers, to a new type of synthetic environment that is, dealing with the high-end fight and ensuring that we've got the right replications, both blue and red, inside of that synthetic environment. So the work that we've done in shifting that acquisition strategy to deliver the right synthetic environments, both at a high end and for the low to medium fidelity type of distributed training, has been very important for us. I think going forward, some of the things that industry can do, I talked about it a little bit in my opening comments, but I just want to emphasize this again. It helps us when you come in and speak to us about your capabilities, that you can point to something like a government reference architecture or the products that we provided you from our program office, and show where your capabilities fit within our architecture and how your capabilities address the gaps that we're trying to fill for our Guardians. And so if instead of providing, what you may think as a standard briefing, look at what we need and tie what you're going to deliver to what we need. That'll help us deliver capabilities faster. It'll help us partner with you faster, because we do have the contract vehicles out there. We have ways to get you on contract. If we understand how you'll fit into our architecture better, and you can present that to us in a clearer way, it will help us get that acquisition from what the planning is to the action that was talked about in that question. And so that would be my recommendation to industry as we engage you at ITSEC and engage you in the industry forums that we have over the next couple of months on the Space Force side, the things that have been pushed from October into January and sometime in the early next year. Use that as your way to engage us and help us understand how you can fill those gaps for us for Guardians.
Thanks, Colonel. General Beeler, AI is being deployed into training system solutions. AI can do a lot to improve training efficiency and effectiveness. However, AI also hallucinates. What is your plan to mitigate the effects of AI hallucinations on future training?
Hey, sir, that's a great question, right? So as we look at the data, right, I think it really starts with the data. How do we ensure that the agents that we're going to use are trained on the right data and not all data? I mean, part of the challenge we see just using, Chat GPT or Copilot or any of those other things is it will sometimes conflate or make assumptions based on data that's available. So how do we make sure we're training the agents that we use with the authoritative data that we have, and that we don't allow it to subjectively surmise certain things inside the training environment. Cybersecurity, absolutely another area where we've got to make sure that we've employed good cyber hygiene on the data that comes in, and cyber hygiene on the software as we look at the BOM, as we look at all those other critical capabilities out there to make sure that it's not being corrupted, that it's not posing a threat to the authoritative data that we're going to find resident in the system and ultimately resident in the cloud. And then, as we think about the use of retrieval augmented generation, or those RAG models that are often people talk about, again, validated model, validated against the right data, and then making sure that we keep a clean data set. I think that's where we're going to find a lot of opportunity to screen out the possibility for inappropriate or ineffective answers to come back. But I think the other thing is obviously keeping that human in the loop, right? I mean, typically we look at something and we kind of know that doesn't quite look right. So we've got to make sure that we've got folks who are in the process validating the information we see, so that we're not bringing in bad training, creating a bad training environment with bad effects for the soldier or the airman out on the battlefield. Over.
Thanks, General. Great response. Captain Betts, as more organizations leverage commercial partnerships for training modernization, what strategies have proven most effective for industry and government collaboration to accelerate capability delivery without sacrificing the quality or the compliance?
That's a great question, sir. One of the things that we've seen here in Orlando with our Central Florida Tech Grove and the Tech Bridge that we've used through Naval X is we've seen kind of those non-standard, non-FAR-based activities allow folks to come in and solve a problem faster. And so basically you come in, we host a prize challenge, or we host a game jam, and then we transition those activities onto an OTA. What that allows us to do is that allows us to get a dozen, 15, 20 teams into a room to solve a hard technical problem that's been brought to us by one of our DOW teammates. And then once we have that, you take your best of breed out of those challenges, and now I can take that potential technological solution and start iterating on it very quickly using those non-FAR-based activities, which allows us to either fail fast or find a solution fast and then get it on contract fast. And so one of the things that we do very often, especially down in Orlando, is we have tons of engagement with industry, right? And so one of the ways that we make those engagements, or the game jams and the tech challenges, prize challenges, things like that happen, is we have that constant engagement with the industry so that they know these are our hard technical problems. Here are our technical requirements that we have gaps in that we need solutions for, and we bring industry in off base to a space where everybody can get to very quickly, so that they can iterate on those problems. And so that constant communication between the DOW and industry is critical in order to solve those problems in that manner. Over.
Yeah, thanks for taking those on that way. I appreciate that response. Colonel Young, going to keep on the topic of data, since that seems to be a common thread across all of you all. What type of data would simulation-based training need to record if it were to be accepted in lieu of current proxy measures that exist today?
Thank you for that comment. I do appreciate the understanding of how AI and data is forming together. Overall, we need data and data frameworks and data rights that allow training and S&T communities to properly VVNA our training tools to meet the training and readiness objectives, to prove how a system leads to increased lethality, not just provide us performance scores, but show us how maybe that individual, that Marine is getting better. How does data provide that is provided in the system? Not just right now, we just capture data and we don't do anything with it. But now we need to learn how to take that data and put it into a algorithm that allows us to produce a performance kind of rating. Where do we need to move this person onto? Where areas are they weak in? And how can we make them better? How can this system make them better? And I think that's what we're kind of looking for. The Marine Corps has recently released a Marine Corps marksmanship campaign plan that has 3 lines of effort: improving service level marksmanship, making Marines more lethal with their assigned weapon system. How do we capture their lethality? Besides just being a marksman or being a sharpshooter, but how do we say that where they're hitting is where they need to hit? And how can we improve that? Improving advanced infantry marksmanship skills is the second one. The third one is future marksmanship technology and experimentation that allows us to experiment and find new capabilities that can tie into our current systems that we can continue to allow Marines to train on. We won't always have the amount of ammo that we want. Oftentimes we don't get enough ammo to train Marines to the level we need to. So we have to develop some simulations that support that.
Thanks, Colonel. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try to go through one more round of the pre-staged questions that you all submitted to us. But I'm also appreciating our executives and their respective staffs are real-time answering some of your questions in the chat. And I appreciate y'all doing that for the audience. And while you can continue to hit those, and it looks like we'll be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Mr. Stevens, back over to you. With so many training systems and platforms in development and fielded, how can program teams become more aware of similar efforts across the Air Force and the Department of War to enable greater synergy, interoperability, and leverage with limited resources that you have?
Yes, sir. Thanks very much for the question. First and foremost, participate in ITSEC in any NTSA sponsored event, because that really is a forum that brings the military industrial base together, both from an academic, the DIB, and then the government writ large. Because just that collaboration in itself is one thing that allows us to really better understand each other's needs and what we have to offer. Secondly, I would state that really it's a matter of well, I would say a couple of things. One, architectures and making sure that we're all driving towards an architecture that that all the services are familiar with and what we're trying to do there in that respect. I'm excited about what SecWar is doing with respect to the program acquisition executives and really focusing on mission outcomes. I really think what that is going to draw out is going to be, what mission outcomes are we each trying to drive towards as a service? Internal to the Air Force, we have some of our overall challenges with respect to the mission outcomes we may be trying to generate for those that are flying an F-15 or an F-22 and not really necessarily thinking about the training and simulation aspect behind the pilot that needs to go through that before they get in the F-22. And so I think the PAE construct and this Arsenal Freedom strategy that SecWar, DepSecWar have put out there is really going to open up the aperture to afford opportunities where we can have the partnerships across services and better understanding on how we're getting after the overall intended mission objectives for each of our respective services in a joint fight, and how we can then inform industry on doing such that will allow us to bring us together in that respect.
Thanks so much. Colonel Klopstein, what are the benefits and challenges of a joint all-domain standard common architecture? And how important is a common architecture to achieving the Golden Dome layered defense strategy?
Well, I think, the challenge is for a common architecture is getting the standards defined up front, ensuring that, the teams that have to plug into that standard understand what those are, and can deliver the capabilities that will fit into the broader architecture. I think the second piece probably is you've got to be able to bring in legacy systems sometimes when you define those common standards. And so if you have to make modifications to legacy systems to bring that into, a broader architecture, that is a hurdle. But as we go forward and as a joint force, it is going to be essential for us to understand how to integrate across mission areas, not even just within the Space Force, but ensuring that the Space Force can plug into the joint force, all domain type of infrastructure and provide the space effects to the joint force. The joint force cannot operate without space effects, and they need to be able to understand as threats are potentially moving in to deny, disrupt, and degrade space effects, how is it going to affect, those long range kill chains, those larger exercises, potentially those broader O plans. And so that is why it's essential for us to understand that, both for how does the Space Force fit in and potentially for Golden Dome going into the future. And so we need to ensure that we work with industry and academia to define those standards effectively. We have a lot of really good work going on within the Space Force right now to define our synthetic environment standards so that we can understand how blue models, red models will better integrate. We're working closely with JSE so that we can not only plug into the Air Force, but to the Joint Force. So making sure that we can provide those effects for the Joint Force is going to be essential going forward.
Yeah, it's a great response to a very complex situation and need. General Beeler, are there specific technology areas or capability gaps that you're going to be focusing on during this ITSEC?
Oh, yes, sir. You can bet that. Just recently, we've made some awards for our next-gen constructive environment under the OTA construct, absolutely using our great consortium here in the area. But we're continuing to look at what is the best of breed going forward, 3D gaming and simulation engines. We're always looking for the best solutions when it comes to persistent and, how do we power persistent environments for the next gen constructive application? What are some of the digital engineering environments or modeling and simulation tools we can apply on top of our gaming engine that we've chosen for the time being? But again, every time we look at what's available out there, we're scanning the environment. How do we bring that capability in? How can we scale that capability? Position and tracking sensors, we talked about that. As new technology or commercial solutions for military technology comes into the fold, they're not necessarily going to be, censored so that I can pick them up in the training environment. So how do I censor different types of weapon systems or different capabilities? How do I take the digital model of, say, an EW or a cyber type of piece of equipment and bring that into the system so it resolves itself inside our constructive virtual or live training environment? Indoor sensing. How are we looking at replicating realism in an indoor environment for an outdoor war? And then autonomy is another area. How are we pulling in autonomy? How are we using robotic processes? How can we look at creating a realistic OP4, not just an OP4 in the live environment, but certainly an OP4 inside both the virtual and the constructive environments?
That's quite a list, and that's just from one service. So I can't imagine how much potential there is amongst all of you all for the audience to be able to visit and talk about once they're down there. Captain Betts, do you anticipate that the services will consider additional training as a service set of opportunities like the U.S. Army Flight School Next initiative in the future?
Thanks, sir. Appreciate the question. I do, especially the Navy. We've created our own. It's called COPTER, the Contractor Operated Primary Training Rotary. And it's in Fort Worth, Texas. Basically, it's a multi-service helicopter pilot training initiative where for pilot training in the Navy, the old way was you took everybody through the same primary. They learned how to fly the T6, and then they'd go on to their different platforms as they graduated out of that. The COPTER program has basically said, hey, if you come in and you want to fly helicopters, we'll skip that first step. We'll just have you fly helicopters. But that whole program is basically training as a service using contractor pilots out in Fort Worth. The pilots get about 50 flight hours using a helicopter alone before they transition on to advanced helicopter training. And so we've had a lot of great success coming out of that program, transitioning a lot of pilots into the advanced helicopter training program, and they're picking up right equal with their peers, or even some cases advanced, because they don't have to unlearn the way a normal aircraft flies. And that's a not so subtle shot at my helicopter brethren. However, we are seeing a lot of really good success with that. And so I definitely see that training as a service is going to continue, especially in the constrained environment where platforms cost money, instructors cost money, et cetera, things like that. And so where we can use our active duty men and women in operational squadrons and operational units instead of as trainers or instructors, and still get the same amount of training or better, I think training as a service is going to keep being incredibly relevant. Over.
Super. Good answer. And it's good to see the services are all taking that on. Colonel Young, this will be the last question, if I may ask you in just a couple of minutes, please. Given the advancement and use of drones in the current conflict, how do you see training, simulation, and human performance shifting in the short and the long term?
Excellent. Thank you for that question. So we have a small group of folks in the Marine Corps that are focused on drones and developing how we're going to take on that effort. So they're called the MCAT, they're the Marine Corps drone team, and they've been working on some solutions together. Short term, they're out there. Probably we get a sit rep every week on what they've been able to accomplish, how they've been integrating with other services to develop what we need to support the drone team, and how we can start taking that data and build out a drone simulator to support that. Based off of the Department of War guidance for the drone dominance, the Marine Corps must have an attack drone units by FY26. So that's what they've been working on. And what we've been looking at is how can we create a training capability that allows us to simulate a drone-like threat. So we're working on that. And as they're moving forward, we're also looking at how to develop a counter drone team, a counterattack team. So that's the next step in that short term. They're looking at working on that in the near future. In long term, we expect there to be some persistent requirements for us as PM Tracy's to develop a drone capability that will sustain throughout, I wouldn't say the next 3 to 5 years. How can we create a capability that ties into our current systems and allows us to do that's interoperable with some of the current systems we use to develop, to execute our service level exercises? We use a capability from SOBs, and we're looking at how can we integrate some of the technology that's out there. How do we integrate that into what we currently use, or how do we find something that we can tie into long term to be able to meet that need? Additionally, I just want to tie in the other capability that we're looking for long term is that electronic warfare, spoofing, jamming, and signal management. TTPs, we're looking at how can we develop some ranges that allow us to get after that. Service members that we are working with, they need to understand how to be visible humans and machines, some readable signatures, and also to be able to adapt performance to remain survivable on the modern battlefield. So we have two main efforts that are probably a little bit further out. That's the drone and that's the EWGIR type capabilities. We're still developing that kind of requirement, but we're trying to look out and see what is industry able to do. So we're looking forward when we get down to ITSEC, how can we work with industry to be able to accomplish the things that may be a little bit further out than the next 12 months, but we are looking for opportunities to use some of those OTAs, some of those other acquisition that are a little bit faster than our standard acquisitions to accomplish those long-term solutions. Thank you very much for that question.
Yeah, thanks very much. Great response. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very indicative that each of our services are busy. They're very focused. They're very well prepared, and they're very excited to meet each and every one of you down in Orlando at ITSEC. As Mr. Stevens said, ITSEC is the forum where we can best bring government, industry, and academia together. They're all going to be there. They're going to be there in spades, and they look forward to carrying on this conversation. We'll take all the questions that you asked live today. You see some of the responses that our executives gave. We'll take those and we'll be prepared to continue those dialogues live down in Orlando. To our service executives, thank you. Your time is very valuable. That's not lost on us. And we appreciate you dialing in to give us a fantastic preview of ITSEC 2025. I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving holiday, a safe time, and good travel. Please get online, register, come experience this from the 1st to the 4th of December at ITSEC 2025. Out here from Arlington, Virginia.